great to be here. Excited to share some of my experience and some of my thoughts on HYROX. It's obviously a super exciting time in HYROX, and I think it's a great opportunity for some of the right people. My background, I played soccer for a number of years after college, so I have that athletic background, and then pretty natural progression, whether it was going into fitness or going back to school, and going back to fitness got the vote. So I ended up starting a small fitness studio inside of a gym. And next thing I know, I decided to open up my own location, and that went pretty well, and decided to get another one going. And then, as the story goes, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and I got overly motivated and inspired, and ended up with 10. So I ran that for a good 15 years across the greater Seattle area. And obviously we had some success, but also made all the mistakes that you can make in that. And so that's kind of led me to where I'm at today, where I sit as the VP role for Studio Grow, where I get to share my expertise on what actually works and what mistakes to avoid. So VP of Sales at Studio Grow, helping potential or new studio owners get a studio up and off the ground. And then for those who have one and are looking to either scale to another one, or just improve margins or revenue or operations within their current location, help get them matched up with one of our consultants to do that. So that's me. That's my background. And when I'm not working, I love to play soccer still. I coach my daughter's soccer team, and love to stay active and try to be as healthy as I can.
All right, thanks, Ian. Training the future of U.S. soccer. We need you now more than ever.
Yeah.
And then Ellis.
Amazing. Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to kick off today. So I'm based in London, but I work for HYROX for over the past year, and my role is in 365. So when we look at HYROX as the event, we know we have this amazing cinematic, super high user experience, which hopefully a lot of the members in your clubs will be racing in. And we talk about what we use as the ecosystem, and you'll hear that word a lot today. But the reason behind it is that the gyms and the infrastructures is a massive part of the sport that we're growing day to day. I'm lucky enough to be able to grow that across Europe. So my role is very much looking after commercially how we grow as a business, but how we build communities, how we make sure that we offer the best services for gyms. My background sits heavily in the fitness and leisure industry. So over the past 10 to 15 years, I've ran multiple different ventures in gyms, offering studios, very different scales from sort of top premium end to budget low end as well. So hopefully we'll be able to offer a lot of value today and discuss some opportunities with affiliations as well.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us. 10 HYROX races is no small feat, so congrats on that as well.
Kidding.
Thanks. It's not as impressive as Ian's soccer career, but it's
No.
And I'm the CEO of Wodify. For those of you who are on the call and don't know Wodify, we are a tech company in the fitness space. We're the largest independently owned platform for fitness and wellness entrepreneurs to run their business. And I've been doing this as well as other tech-related ventures for the last 12 years. When I'm not working at Wodify, I just like to do all sorts of fitness-related challenging things, whether that's CrossFit, ultra marathons, HYROX. Pilates honestly is like underrated. I think the most difficult. I'm dying every time I take a Pilates class, jiu-jitsu, and other things that just humble me and get me out there in the fitness community. So let's really jump into it. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is the HYROX affiliate model and how to bring a HYROX training inside your studio. But before we dig into that, Ellis, I think at this point, everyone probably knows HYROX is more than just hype, but the numbers really are like just blow my mind every time I look at them. The affiliate model, which was just launched a few years ago, you have over 15,000 gyms that are affiliated with HYROX around the world. And in 2026, you're going to have more people complete a HYROX race than all the marathons combined. Like that's the one that blows my mind. So just can you try to articulate what you think HYROX has tapped into to create this massive movement towards mass participation fitness?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the numbers do absolutely express how much as a business we've grown, but also where our focus wants to be. And to be really, really clear as well, HYROX 365 is built to create the community, create the hub, create the training space within the clubs that we have and the studios that are on offer. The model was very much built around how we can support and grow small businesses, but also we offer a product which I truly believe is one of the best turnkey solutions for gyms from a programming perspective as well as a feature perspective. So there's a lot of things that come to HYROX 365 as feature adds and benefits. And the real key part that we really try to build in is that the ecosystem I briefly mentioned earlier, but to give a bit of a closer insight to what that is, we offer 1.6 million users racing in this season, and we'll continue to see that numbers grow. But the exciting number for me is we want to reach 100 million lives through HYROX training. And to give the concept of what that actually means and how that can happen, if you take soccer, just because Ian's in the call, and I've said soccer as a British person, which is hilarious. Everyone can have a laugh about that.
I get fined for that, I think, actually.
Yeah, Joe, we'll say football just because I'm back in England to win the World Cup with how well we're doing. But we can check back this clip and watch us get beaten on the weekend. Sorry, sidetracked. But the idea is that if you take a football sport, for example, not everyone will play in the Premier League, and that's the top level in the British sort of football league there is, or not everyone will play in the MLS. And the idea is that thousands and thousands and millions of people will play football on the weekend. They'll be part of a smaller soccer club, which your children might go to. And I know you're a coach for your daughter's or son or daughter's club. And the idea is that we start to see HYROX as a sport, and we treat it as that throughout the business, but also throughout all of our events. And we obviously have ambitions to be part of the Olympics, and we very much will get to that point based off the way we perform and the way we have this infrastructure. But the training clubs are built around this, because if you look at HYROX as a sport, generally you always need the club or the facility to go to if you have a sport. So tennis, you need to have the tennis grounds. If you do ballet, you need the dance studios. The idea is that we've already got the infrastructure of the gyms that are there. If you take the UK, for example, we've got 8,000 to 9,000 gyms in the UK. When we look at that as an opportunity, it's how do we plug the gap between programming, servicing, and what we call the performance hub, which is where we bring all the features to life through activations, through tech, through deployment. And Brendan, I know you're very into your tech as well, so it's super exciting that we can basically collaborate with our gyms, with our operators, but also how we make coaches better and give a better service to the member. We really see a correlation between members joining training clubs, then repeating and participating in competition. So that's probably the most exciting part I want to talk on, and Brendan, happy to discuss further.
Yeah, yeah, no, thanks for the overview. And I think the two things that get me most excited about what you just said are the first point around this mass participation event you've created needs to be trained for in a gym, which is why, it sounds kind of obvious, but it's why we keep talking about it in our industry is unlike, running a marathon where you could do it outside, just, find a training plan online or maybe hire a coach. You need equipment and coaching and community to do it in a gym. So you're kind of inviting in this ecosystem that's already existed to join on the growth and be part of that. So that's really cool. Second piece is HYROX by its nature creates these big milestones for people to work towards. And in gyms, a lot of times you're asking people what their goals are, what they're working towards, and this kind of creates a built-in objective if they don't already have one to train for a race. And it also creates that built-in community event. So a lot of your members are going to go to it together, and we've seen awesome stuff from gym t-shirts, and if you're traveling, you could all make a weekend out of it. So it really has this awesome built-in community event feel. But let's go back to kind of what you said around this idea that people are going to want to train for it in a gym. There's over 15,000 HYROX clubs now around the world, and I'll flash through a few examples I've seen. But the question I want to ask you is, what types of gyms are best suited for HYROX training? And we've seen a pretty wide variety from functional fitness, CrossFit gyms, from boot camp and hit studios, even from some commercial gyms. So it's clear that there's a pretty diverse set of gyms that can offer HYROX training. And run the HYROX sims and be an affiliate. But just tell me about what you see as the characteristics of the best suited gyms for HYROX.
Yeah, for sure. And really, really good overview, by the way. I think to give a really clear insight, right, we work with many different gyms, from your top end, like high level industry clubs in London, which are members only. You're talking maybe £300 to £400 a month. But we also work with some fantastic boutique studios that, again, maybe have a class capacity of 3 to 4 people, and it's really on that high level coaching. And this is the beauty of HYROX, right? So we've really created a sport where it can really tap into a lot of different people's life cycles. We can also look at how it's embedded into the current systems. And I think something that's a really good topic I'd like to discuss is it's sometimes not about the gym being built around HYROX. It's almost the gym offering its own identity and HYROX being a byproduct of its success. And this is where gyms get it right. When they offer, maybe they specialize in Pilates, they specialize in S&C, and the HYROX product is a byproduct which can basically aid other programming. Like, I know for a fact, if you look at some of the programs we create in 365, me as an athlete, I'm generally more of a stronger athlete who can really work harder on the sleds. I can really be comfortable on the lunges, but my downfall is always my engine, where it's running, it's economy in being under fatigue. So I know for me that I'm going to benefit to really go to them types of classes, which if you took like the profile of that type of gym might be more of a hit studio or a conditioning club or run clubs. And this is where HYROX is exciting because we sit into a lot of different categories, which as a sport is quite cool. I think we broaden the horizon, and that probably is a byfactor of our success. Where, it'd probably be a good question to come back to you on as well. Like, I see a lot of clubs in the UK and across Europe that I've been to, and some real fantastic areas. But for me, like, we don't set a minimum requirement of kit. We feel very passionate that it's down to the gym to offer the service based off the equipment they can deliver. But obviously, as a service level, if you went to, again, referring back to sport, if you were playing a tennis or a football and you went back and you had the best 4 or 5G pitches with the best goals, with the best soccer balls, the best coaches, it will probably be a better experience than the one field that has a goal that's been there for 50 years. So it's dependent on the level. But Ian, great to hear your experience on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think if the kind of big overall question there, Brendan, was like which facilities, which studios, which gyms would be the best fit for it. Is that right?
Yeah,
To add
exactly.
some color to that. Yeah. So I think, you know, to Ellis's point there, it's like it in and itself is, I think, a really cool opportunity as an add-on to what is already in place. If your studio, if your gym has its identity, this is something that can elevate it and can add a lot of value to your membership, to your facility. It's something that I think can really set you apart from other folks. And now, to your point, if somebody's really gotten into it and you have 2 wall balls and somebody else has 10 or 15, or they have more space or they have more equipment, they're going to be drawn to that. I think that piece is true for sure. But I think it's a really cool opportunity to diversify a little bit and to get people just an opportunity to do something different, right? I think a lot of people, if when in my studios, for sure, we would poll people like when they quit or if they freeze their membership. Oftentimes people will say that it's price or whatever it is, but the truth is, I think people get bored, right? Like, some people really like to work out, but most people don't. Most people don't like to work out. And if you look at our, the demographics in the US and across the world, like, there's a lot of people that are really struggling with their health and fitness, right? Obesity is still on the rise. Like, people are overweight, cancer, heart disease, all these things are going up. So, like, if people love to work out, like, that wouldn't be the case, and they don't. So providing an opportunity to do something fresh and unique and new that, like, stimulates them in a way that they want to continue, I think is a really cool thing that it can do. So I think it's one of those things where you have your core modality, or you have your core identity, and then, hey, we can look at bringing this in to add something to freshen things up, and provide an opportunity for your members, your clients, to get what is very interesting and very big in the market, right? You show those stats at the beginning and stay at your place because chances are they're going to want to see what it's all about. They're going to want to try it out. And do you want them to try it out in your spot where you can add that on or go someplace else that's offering it is, I think, a pretty important consideration too.
Yeah, and Ian, just to go a little bit deeper on that, one of the things you had shared with me earlier that I think is really helpful to think about because HYROX is so unique in its scale and kind of what it's delivering. But this idea of adding something to your core modality or core identity isn't necessarily new. And you compared it to things like run clubs or adding kickboxing to a studio if that wasn't its core offering. So can you talk a little bit about that and the kind of decision process you think studio owners should make when they're considering adding different things like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, when Tough Mudders and Spartan races got really big, we polled our members, which was like the first step, right? It's like, are people interested? And I think it's pretty clear the numbers speak for themselves that a lot of people are interested, but whether it's your studio or your folks, I think that's kind of the first step. And then we added that on, right? And it was an additional cost where, most studios have tons of downtime, right? So that's also something to kind of look in the mirror, like, is your class schedule filled from 5, 6 in the morning until 7 at night? And if it is, great, and you're in a good spot, right? And you might have a hard time adding this in, but if there's some open windows in there, and it makes sense to do some trial classes, which is what we did for preparing for the obstacle races, right? So additional cardio, which maybe we could have got Ellis in, because he sounds like he needed it. Give me a hard time. But so some additional cardio stuff as well as some strength stuff around obstacles, and people just loved it. And we got special shirts made and they all went to the events. And in addition to them getting some great results and those people sticking around for a long time, just the social media, opportunities that it gave us, the photos that we had as them muddy and celebrating together in like that post, experience euphoria that we then get to cycle back for our social media brought in even more people. And it's just a really good cycle. So adding something in additionally isn't for everybody, but it's 100% for everybody worth exploring and worth, doing some research to see if your members are already doing that somewhere else or they're interested and kind of dipping your toe in the water to see if this is something that would make sense at your facility because generally there's room for it. And generally these are things that people are already thinking about.
Yeah, and I think that idea of understanding your current member base interest as well as probably some level of assumption on the leads you're getting, and there are
Yeah.
people that aren't members yet that would be interested in it. Some really quick data that we pulled that I'll share, and then Ellis, I think it'd be good to talk about just at a high level what affiliation means. But Wodify is the system of record for fitness businesses. So we do payment processing, class scheduling, and we did this study a few months ago looking at almost 2,000 gyms and a subset of 350 HYROX clubs affiliates. And what we found was at the HYROX gyms, they've been able to attract 34 more clients on average and generate close to $6,000 more in monthly revenue. And so there's some, obvious correlation, not necessarily causation there, but evidence to show that HYROX affiliation, also anecdotally talking to a lot of those gyms, has generated more leads, has helped with retention, and if you bill it as an add-on or increase your membership price because you have a new offering, can drive up revenue. And as you think about the maybe economics there of your business, like how many more members would I have to generate or how much would I have to increase my price? It's probably a good opportunity to just talk about what affiliating means, Ellis, from a maybe just structural standpoint, like cost, and then the other implications of what getting started looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Super easy and happy to answer, and really good stats there as well. I love I imagine, right? You add a product and straight away you get another $72,000 in your bank account. Like, amazing, and your members get a better service. I think that just as an initial stamp, and that was off 350 clubs. You imagine the 15,000 clubs we've got daily monetizing, but also curating a service. And I think that's the biggest part I'd want to talk about, right? So I always say that the cost of the affiliation, and I'll actually talk about the services first when we come to the cost last, just because it gives a really good picture to understand of how much we actually give. So we carefully curated what we can offer to affiliates, and that comes into three different key paths, right? So the first part is the IP and the branding. So we give the very clear branding of HYROX training clubs, which generally gets people very excited. So the idea is that you have that marketing toolbook. Once you're part of the affiliate scheme, there is a playbook structure that you would be onboarded with. You'd be very understandable to how you can launch this to your current members, but also to your leads. So the key part of this is when we spoke earlier, and Ian made a really good point on it. If you're not using it at the moment, someone else is. And quite often or not, we see a lot of gym members, especially now in the century we're in and the day and age, people have got more than one membership, right? So they may have a Pilates membership, they may have the wellness membership, they might also have the S&C membership. And you want to really look at it and go, right, like our members could be spending $400 to $600 a month on memberships alone. What could we do to create a business model to really understand this cost, this opportunity? And look, it's got to be right for the business model as well. I always talk around this, and Ian and Brendan, when we spoke before, I've said exactly the same thing. And I say to all affiliates, like, this has to work for your gym. Like, ultimately, there has to be a demand, there has to be an understanding, there has to be the right coaches in place to be able to put it in. And it's something where we give a really, really good setup for. So like I mentioned, the IP and branding is the first point. We then give education. So,
And Ellis, sorry to interrupt you, just
of
really quick to add some visuals to the IP and the branding. That can
course,
show up on everything from just the website, so you get some good search traffic. So make sure this is for also current affiliates. Make sure you're having all these touch points. Like people will be Googling HYROX training near me. So website, your Google business profile is another great place to make sure you're using that. And then on social media, it also HYROX has talked about tagging and collaborating with their different accounts too. Whether you're doing that or just making sure you're using the term HYROX in your social media posts, that's a great way to just make sure you're getting the most out of that IP.
yeah, totally. And like the key part is right is that when we talk about the ecosystem, and you'll hear me say this word, so I will keep continuing to say it, and it will be around forever. But we want our training clubs to promote what they're doing and the members, because ultimately these are feeding into our races. So the transition and the member journey we want to focus on is that a member joins your club and your studio, they have the best experience, they come along to the best HYROX classes with the best HYROX coaches, they attend the event, they get the PB because they've understand the movement patterns, their coach has gone through the foundation course, which we provide for free. So every single coach that signs up or is part of an affiliated club gets the foundation course as a free or complimentary course. So if you've got one coach or if you've got 10, for us it's so important that they understand the movement pattern, they can deliver a class. It might seem really silly that we do that, but it does make sense if you think about our sport and how serious we want it to be and how much we want these athletes to come and have the best day and really PB and come back to their clubs and celebrate, but also rebuild and re-go again. And I think anyone that's done a HYROX race here will all agree that that feeling when you finish is normally like a second where you look up, you look at your time, you feel amazing, then you drop and you're like, wow, like I feel awful. And then on the way home, you're probably Googling, where's the next HYROX event? Where can I get booked onto? And then you get sucked into it. And this is what we want. This is an infectious sport. It's something where we want people to come to their training clubs, celebrate with their coaches, celebrate with their clubs. And we know, right, that communities in gyms is what retains members. And we want it to be a retention tool as well as an attrition tool to gain new members. The key part that I wanted to talk on as well was programming. So we really define 4 key elements of programming, which is engine. Engine is really defined on the athlete who would need more aerobic work. So me as a prime example, just to give you a good one from there. We then have our power-based workouts, which again are strength components. So it's really focused on the strength element and the lifting side of the HYROX class. So again, the heavier sleds, the more lower rep movements, but higher power output. Then we have complete, which again is our race ready program. So complete is really designed to get people sharp, get people performing on the day. And then foundation is more about beginner or entry level base workout, which again can still pack a punch, but it's really focused on overall execution and standard delivery across the board. We also as well build within our affiliation that each club can have a design tailored program. So for example, let's say, I know, Brendan, when we were talking, your club signed up to Denver. You can build a 13-week block which your members can follow. And look, like, we carefully create this from David Magida, who's our global head of training, but has also been an Elite 15 athlete. He's got the methodology behind it is perfect and nailed down. But we've created a real simple tool that gyms, coaches, and affiliates can follow and execute perfectly in their clubs. I feel like there's loads I've not spoke around as well. And I know, Brendan, you've got the software and you've used it, and any affiliates in the chat, you'll be quite impressed with the service that we give. And we continue to aspire to give the best services to our training clubs. And the cost of this is $1,500 a year, or £1,400 a year for UK. Again, when we look at the costing of this, it's maybe 2 members a year or 3 members a year, depending on your pricing structure. So I'd probably revert the question back to everyone in the group here today and say, right, based off the cost of the affiliation, based off the members I need, could you create a business case of it? And could you go back to your members and give a better service based off this cost and everything I've spoke on, plus much more?
Yeah. Ellis, you forgot the most important: early access tickets.
How could I forget?
I think my gym became an affiliate like the day before early access tickets, so I'm on sale because they were on the fence. But that is you want to talk to that for a second, because it actually is a huge value prop for the affiliation.
Yeah, 100%. Do you know what? We actually, it's really funny. Like, we do offer so much that is just like an extra bit of like HYROX gold dust that we give with the service. So again, because we do want the affiliates to be our races and we really care about that, we give all affiliate members access 48 hours in advance. So if your local event is Denver, you would have any event in your region. So US affiliates will get all US events 48 hours early access to the general sales. So again, it's a nice opportunity to take members away. And we see it a lot in the UK where I'm from, that members will travel to overseas. They will make community trips, like creating off-site events with their members to really, make special moments.
Yeah, awesome. And one of the things, so we had talked about a little bit, Ian, this idea of HYROX demonstrating all of these small ways that together build this incredible community and fitness movement. And if someone is either on the fence or just thinking about their business, what are some general principles you could take away from what HYROX is doing and apply it to any studio or gym?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, they've really captured a lot of things that lead to, I think, the lead gen side for sure, but I think more so around retention, which for me has always been the culture and the community in the space that you have in your studio, right? I remember, at first I thought it was like if your clients, if your students are getting great results, they'll never go someplace else. And we would have people that would win 6-week challenges. They'd lose 25 pounds and 6% body fat. And they would be like, great, I'll take my prize money, and they're going elsewhere. I'm like, that's crazy. So then I was like, oh, it's just about, they just need to be like appreciated and recognized. And we would appreciate and recognize them all day long. But then they would still, go someplace else. And so what I started to realize that it was like, yes, results are important, incredibly important. Yes, showing appreciation and recognition is important, but it's the other people that are there. It's the community that you have in place. And so what we found is the more touch points that your members and your clients have with other members and clients in there, like that is what makes it sticky. It's the other people in there. And so then the question becomes, it can't just be about the classes or just about the sessions. How can you get them together in addition to that, the after workout smoothies, or, the pre-workout matcha together, or the run club, or these opportunities to get together afterwards. And HYROX just creates that naturally, right? Because they're having these extra workouts together. And then to Ellis's point, like when what we used to do, where they would go to the events, but going to the events and just building that camaraderie together. And from a psychological standpoint, when you go through tough times with people, it creates this really special bond. And like doing a HYROX race is a tough time.
Yeah.
Even the Sims is a tough time in a good way, right? So it's just really builds those connections with the other members. So I think it does a phenomenal job of that. And then also the social media piece, right? Just creates tons of potential content of your members happy, sweating together, right? And then you get to see actual progress at the race, right? Like, are you completing different segments of the race faster, more efficiently than you had previously from the time together? So, yeah, it's those spotlight moments that I think it really manufactures the opportunity to have. In addition to the culture inside of your studio, I think those things together are really, really important. And HYROX does a great job of that. But even if you're not HYROX affiliated, that really demonstrates the power of the impact of that. And your stat showed it earlier, right, Brendan, of the increase in revenue, increase of members that those folks have. Correlation, causation, probably a little bit of both, but also it's like, what is the causation, that's leading to that extra revenue? Sure, it's some people paying some more monthly, but it's also the long term, the retention, and that piece of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think these ideas can be applied to your business independently as part of your HYROX affiliation, but this idea of social media and spotlight moments, we've probably seen these all over our Instagram feed. Another thing is, HYROX has this format that makes it so no one really feels left out or last because heats are consistently starting. So I
Yeah.
remember my second HYROX race. I was, I'm a pretty mediocre athlete, and I was running laps next to some of the most elite HYROX athletes ever, and that was pretty cool. And you can't even really tell if you're in first or last. And again, you can apply this to the programming in your gym. And then the last piece is just how accessible HYROX races are. Means if you launch this, you likely won't have a bunch of members who are upset because they think they could never do a HYROX. Maybe they're not interested in it personally, but it won't be inaccessible for them. And that's proven to be true just based on the scale that HYROX has grown to. Ian, you mentioned Sims. So Ellis, could you walk us through, because we've talked about the races as these bigger milestones and community events. Sims are kind of one step back from that. Yeah, can you talk about what they are and how training clubs can capitalize on them?
Yeah, for sure. So to give a bit of an overview, right? When we built the Performance Hub and the features that are in the affiliation, we built it to service members, we built it to improve member retention, but we also built it to give an understanding and an overview of what HYROX is. So the simulation or the sim, which you hear people talk around, again, can be used two ways. One as a lead generation tool, and when we call it a lead generation tool, we mean new people coming into your club that maybe have been training at another gym up the road and they really like your facility because it offers a really good service. We then also see other gyms in the area really go into detail with what they offer for their simulations. And I think some clubs do some amazing concepts where maybe they have as a community day, they'll throw on like a barbecue, they'll have goodie bags, they'll start to get brands involved. And what we really want to see, right, is that the simulation should never be the event. Like we make that really clear in our brand guidelines. For example, Brendan's in Denver right now. Like his gym or the gym he goes to can never be called HYROX Denver because HYROX reserve the right for the names. But it can be an official HYROX training club with a HYROX simulation as part of X gym. So the idea is that we want this to be a tool that gyms can use to generate new leads, get new members into their clubs, offer a value service for members participating, and the retention side of it is that you can then start to get members that almost have a gateway into racing at the actual race. So quite often or not, right? Like, for example, Brendan, you raced and you were with a bunch of the elites and you were with a bunch of like the top pros, and you've obviously participated with
For about 2 seconds.
you were hanging on for dear life, but you were there in the moment. And whilst you thrive off that, some people could find that intimidating, right? Like the general everyday user might find that as a big thing to step up to. So I think, look, the key thing that I love about simulations is that you can have your coaches there on site. You can make a whole day of it. The coaches can almost be there as judges, but also as a friendly reminder on how to do the movement standards. Like the last thing you want is your members going to these events, getting no reps, not knowing the rules, the regulations,
Yeah.
and having a terrible day. Like that's the last thing we want. We want members to come and have an amazing experience. And we actually really build this out carefully, as well as simulations. We build monthly challenges. So the class formats I spoke around earlier, and I saw someone said in the chat, are they every day? They are every day. So 7 days a week we program for. So if you're a studio and you program Monday to Sunday, we can really start to go into detail with those. But we build challenges with them as well. So, for example, for me, by the way, I can run for more than 5 minutes, but it is designed for the athlete who couldn't. We would build an engine challenge, and I might sign up to Ian's gym as a new member. And my program might be right. Day one, we're going to do a fitness testing of an engine challenge. And over the next 3-4 months, Ian will get me fit in his studio. So eventually, that when I get to the engine challenge again, I can retest and reconfigure my scores. So we don't only look at just simulations, because although they're a great and amazing opportunity to do, we also look at individual needs. And this is where we really stand out from the rest, because we're not just looking at the masses, we're looking at individuals. How do we make them better at their needs and requirements?
Yeah, I think that I've been just blown away by some of these HYROX simulations we're seeing from our customer base that have 50, 100, 150 people show up, and they're just this built-in like uh, bring a friend class on steroids. Like you can really make them an amazing community event for members, leads. A lot of people will turn them into multi-hour events with different kind of heat times going off. So
I love what Ellis said too. It's like the actual sim is not the event. It's all the stuff before it,
yeah.
after it. Like I think that's really yeah, I think that's a really cool way to think about that, right? That it's like in the same way that's like your classes are just a piece of it. It's like what's in addition to the classes, right? And so it's kind of that same idea, but I think that's great. Barbecue and bring a friend and recovery and all that stuff is great.
Yeah, so even if you're not in a HYROX city, like where there's a major event, one, a lot of people do make trips out of this. It's a fun weekend, but if not everyone can go to that, you could still incorporate the training and run the simulation at your gym. And we actually have someone who's on the call, Leo Carrillos, dropped in a photo of, I don't know if this is a sim or just a class, but you can tell they got an awesome training club out there in El Paso, Texas. So thanks for sharing that photo with us, Leo. Um, I want to ask you guys a few more questions and then let's move on. We're getting some questions in the chat. And just a reminder, as Hunter's been trying to remind people, I will scroll through the chats. We'll try to answer all questions. But if you drop them in the Q&A tab instead of chat, it's just a little bit easier for us to navigate. Ian, I wanted to ask you, a lot of what Ellis described was around introducing new programming, new classes, maybe changing your pricing or scheduling. Are there any just general tips or advice you have for gym owners who just to kind of like very tactically sit down and think about making changes like this? I think what you don't want to do is rush that and just like, okay, next Saturday we have a new class every Saturday at 9 a.m. So just talk to kind of the business strategy of changing your
I think
model.
the first and foremost, it's right. Is it something that you're going to be interested and passionate about? Because if you're not, that might be okay, but there should be somebody on your team who is, because I think you won't give it its best if that's not the case. If you're already maxed out running classes on your own, is there somebody else on your team, that you can look to develop those skill sets to run those classes, and that approach? Does it, are you running a facility where it makes sense to bolt this on? For example, if you have a smaller space full of reformers and logistically, literally there's just not room in your space. Obviously, that's, a pretty big consideration. Now, the cool thing about this is it doesn't necessarily take up a ton of equipment, right? And there's modifications and workarounds that you can do. But I think that's the first thing is there, your personal interest or somebody who's going to be involved being interested. And then, as I mentioned earlier, let's take a look at your schedule, right? Is there open space on there? And I would argue for most, there probably is some open spots in there. And then, as Ellis shared, pricing wise, what would it take for this to be a profitable endeavor, right? And that's one of our core pieces is we get so many studios coming to us. Sure, they got some revenue going, they've got some marketing in place, but when we look at the P&L at the end of the day, that's the most important, right? One of my kind of mantras was, like revenue feeds the ego and profit feeds the family. So at the end of the day, we want to have more, want this to be a profitable piece to do. And so it's like, what are those spaces? Okay, here's the cost for the program. Here's what I think people would pay for it. This is what I'm going to need to pay instructors if I'm not running myself. And so just, a little mini P&L. It doesn't need to be super complicated, but like at the end of the day, is this going to be adding profit to, to our bottom line? And then also thinking about that's just one component. Like also, is this going to help with retention, which at the end of the day improves LTV, like lifetime value for customers? Is this going to bring some new people in? So then it's bringing down cost of new acquisition of clients. So it can help in multiple different ways. So I think it's like looking at all those different angles. And then from there, you can start to explore a little bit more in terms of gauging interest, right? Like, hey, we're going to have not our first class on Saturday, but our first let's chat about it on Saturday, right? Stick around
Yeah.
after the yoga class on Saturday for anybody who's interested in even maybe you don't know what HYROX is or you've heard it or you've seen some of the photos, but you're scared to, jump in. Let's chat about it. And you can start to gauge some interest. And that was the kind of the protocol what we would roll out across our studios for implementing the obstacle course training stuff is just like, hey, see who's interested. And then once they're interested, which is kind of a low friction way for somebody to raise their hand without paying a bunch of money or committing to anything. And then from there, you can kind of take them down the conversation. So I think that for me would be the thoughts that I would think through in terms of first stages of implementation.
Yeah, and I like that idea. I mean, if you already have clients that look to you to be their trusted source of fitness and health and training, being the one to say, "Hey, let me talk to you guys about this HYROX thing that you've seen on Instagram," is a
Yeah.
great way to position yourself as that expert. Um, Ellis, last question for you. Just, I think what I've seen is the kind of ROI of affiliation, if you commit to it, is almost a given, but there's still a big difference between just making the $1,500 profitable and actually like, driving the full business value it could create. So are there any like one or two most successful things you've seen affiliates do that you think would be good to leave people with?
Yeah, for sure. So firstly, I always talk around value and service, and both have different meanings. And I'm really, really clear on if you join up to the HYROX affiliation, we have to have, and Ian mentioned it perfectly, right? Like you have to have someone championing it in club. So there has to be that HYROX champion. They don't have to be getting 55-minute HYROXs. They have to be passionate around the brand. They have to be really the person driving it from the ground up. And like Ian said earlier, like asking the members, like who's interested in it, like who understands it, like why are we putting it in place? And I hope when people do start and they're a little bit further along, they will really understand that it's a real heavy movement for getting members to buy into the brand, but it's also getting members to really understand that this is going to positively impact them for multiple different reasons. And what we see quite often, right, is that HYROX, when it's paired with other, whether it's a wellness option, whether it's a Pilates, whether it's kickboxing, like HYROX is genuinely a very good conditioning workout, right? Like we all understand that it's the fundamental movements, it's got really strong movement patterns, but it's also working on cardiovascular training. So generally, when you do a HYROX class, you're probably going to feel you're getting the benefits from it as a user. As an operator, for why you should put it in, I think the key reason is that you can see the growth in the expenditure of the brand and the numbers talk around themselves. But when you look at the opportunity, right, the opportunity is now. We are growing at an exponential rate, but we're also seeing some great opportunities with gyms capitalizing on that as well. So to give the sort of golden nuggets, which I would say is the best implementation, I would look at the value service. So how much value can you give to your members from charging a HYROX class? Is it where you can add a bolt on for an extra $40 or $50 a month? Is there something where actually you can start to do fitness testing with members, which is included in the Performance Hub, running monthly challenges, which is consistent? And especially if you're an individual site or if you're a multi-site operator as well, like we've got this correct system in place where you plug and play. It's a super simple opportunity. We give the coaches the functionality. We create the Performance Hub. we constantly update. We charge a very competitive price for what we offer because we want the gyms to make money. The other piece was the offering, right? So we look at value and then we look at service. Like this service for your members is going to ultimately make their experience better. And the reason it's going to make it better is because they're going to have another string to the bow of the opportunity of their existing program. So, for example, if I go to a Pilates studio and they've got the space, the opportunity, the equipment to launch a HYROX class, I'm then getting another bang for my buck that I'm not having to go to another club to pay for because I could be getting at your club. And lifetime value is such an important metric. And Ian, I'm glad you mentioned it because we use that figure as well as RPU, which is your additional revenue per user. We also then look at member retention and your attrition and also your growth. Like ultimately, this is going to help every single metric in your business that is going to make your business more profitable. And like Ian said earlier, like put more food on the table for your family, which ultimately members are happy, your coaches are getting better quality sessions, you're going to make more profit in your business. So it ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, that's a great summary. Well, thank you guys again. Let's tick through some of these questions, and I think we should have time to get to all of them. I'll start with this one from Manduai. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Is the program included in the affiliation prices? I think he means programming. It is, yeah. Ellis, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we program consistently. So every week you have 7 workouts, which is 2 foundation, 2 complete, 2 engine, 2 foundation, 2 power, then 1 complete. But every week that's updated.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. Billy says, looking for the step-by-step process to be HYROX affiliated. I'll let you maybe speak to it at a high level, Ellis. I will also note that we're sending out some materials after the webinar, so you guys will have a bunch of content, some of what we covered today, as well as additional next steps and what it means to get affiliated with HYROX. But I want to give kind of an overview of the steps.
Of course. Super simple. If you need more information, we can make sure the right regional manager has the conversation. Or if you're ready to go ahead, it's as simple as going onto our HYROX website, click on the new affiliation page, and then getting signed up for the portal. Again, it would be great to get your details and more than happy to put you in touch with the right person so we give you a strong onboarding.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Steph says, what are the average rates for HYROX memberships? Do most gyms do this as an add-on or a standalone membership? What are people charging to participate in a sim? And noted that her gym's primary service offering is CrossFit.
Oh, yeah, more than happy to answer. So we'll go from the beginning. So price range of HYROX membership can really depend on what your primary goal is as a gym. So depending, like in London, for example, if you were looking at a good quality HYROX gym, you'd be looking anywhere from £200 to £300 a month. Again, we then see smaller budget gyms offer it maybe in the south of England or the north of England, where maybe it's not as a big or as a richer area. So you will see pricing range very differently. I think the key part is there's 2 models you could do. It could be a bolt-on service where actually you add for all the HYROX features and classes as a package, or you could include it in your membership service and look at your average yield of pricing and say, actually, we're going to up the average yield. If you've got 100 members and you up by $10, you're $1,000 better a month.
Yeah, and then I'll just say, Steph, from my observation, working with a lot of CrossFit gyms that are HYROX affiliates, we've seen a lot of different options. Typically, what we see is it's part of a standard membership to your gym so that you don't have to do too much kind of like logistical work across programs, and you get them bought into all of your offerings, not just HYROX. So we typically see is like, a relatively like a class pack or a drop-in offering, and then your membership pricing laid out so they can access all of your programs, not just HYROX. And then what are people charging to participate in a sim? I don't know if you have any data on that, Ellis. I feel like anecdotally I usually see between like $50 and $100, but
yeah, look, I think it's dependent on the gym, right? And I think it's also dependent on the service. So, for example, like let's say you make it a whole community day, you chuck on a barbecue, you have some drinks, you have DJs, like you have a higher
Yeah.
net spend, you probably need to charge a higher net fee per user. So it's really what the gym wants it to be. There's no hard data on that. Again, like just based off my region, London, you'd maybe look at anywhere from 50 to £100 and maybe 50 to $100 in the US. But maybe if you didn't have all the bells and whistles and it was just a simulation, maybe you look $30 to $60.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Um, Billy says thank you. All right, I'm going to say I answered that. Scott says I saw another one of these in chat related to Wodify and the programming. So they said they receive affiliate programming through Wodify for Mayhem. If we affiliate with HYROX, what does Wodify charge to add $365 account? So Wodify has an integration with HYROX programming, and as long as you're a HYROX affiliate, you also get their programming in Wodify for free as well. So you just have to get it set up. All we ask for is your HYROX affiliate ID. So all good on that front. Keeps it simple with just needing to be a HYROX affiliate and make sure you have that ID. Let's jump over to chat. What do we have here? Elizabeth said, how do you help promote HYROX while also making sure the individual has a strong fitness foundation, i.e. they're doing a combo of HYROX classes and run days or HYROX mixed with strength, etc.?
Love it. Great question. Comes down to the programming, and this is where we really separate ourselves from other products. So a good example is if you've got a member who joins and again, like maybe their movement pattern isn't at the level it needs to be, they'll probably again recommend you as the coach to analyze that person, go, right, they probably need to attend more foundation-based classes. Maybe they need to work on a little bit of the competition element. So one complete class a week is perfect, but their strength is where they need to really improve. So they might just do 2 of your lifting classes a week. So you can straight away build that program based off the products we give you. That could be different for every single individual. So Brendan might come along and say, actually, I've done tons of marathon running, I've done ultras, but Brendan's experience might need to be focused on the strength element. So you can really tailor it to each individual. And that's what excites me as a gym, offering HYROX that you can tailor to the individual joining your gym.
Yeah, especially for more on the like boutique side of the house instead of a commercial gym, you probably know your clients pretty well and can provide that kind of tailored advice or guidance towards them. Let me see if there's anything else. Billy, I think we got your email address. You talked about like your specific application, so we'll share that with Ellis and he can follow up. When do early access go out to affiliates? I think you answered that actually, Ellis, after they chatted. It's 48 hours.
Correct. Yeah. So each affiliate owner or gym manager will receive their code 1 week prior. After that week, they will then share with their members leading up to the early access. Then they'll be able to share the early access code accordingly. So again, first step as a member is to reach out to your gym owner or manager and say, hey, where's that code? We want to book Anaheim or Denver, depending on the location race. For the gym user or the gym manager, you would get the code sent to you directly from your account retrospectively for your region.
Awesome. I think we got through everything. Leo shared in the meantime that he did a women's only HYROX sim recently and said it was an awesome turnout. So check that out. Awesome job. Yeah, really cool to see. That's another example of just taking the product and tailoring it to your community or your gym or kind of understanding what might work for your thing. And he said, I'm getting those for Anaheim. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again. Let's just wrap here. Ellis, as we talked about with HYROX, we'll send some follow-up materials. If anyone is interested to learn more about this, is the best place HYROX? Like, is there other than the materials we'll send? What's the best way for them to go kind of learn more?
Yeah, for sure. Firstly, if you haven't already, attend the race. Go either participate or just go watch. You'll be there for hours soaking it in, and they're electric days. So ultimately, check out our social media as well. Like if you go on the HYROX World page, you'll see some super amazing production. We've just had the World Champs, which was absolutely amazing, where we saw some really impressive race times and also just, again, electric energy. So you can catch them on YouTube as well. So I recommend between the YouTube page, between HYROX and obviously HYROX 365 as well, where we plug all of our training club information, training club tips, daily resources, and everything that you need.
Awesome. Thank you. And Ian, Studio Grow helps people make decisions like this along with everything else to run a successful business. So Rachel shared a booking link in the chat. Other than that, studiogrow.co or anywhere else people should go to learn more about Studio Grow.
Yeah, I think that's a great spot, as well as the link we'll share. Happy to jump on. Like I said, I ran 10 for a number of years, so I made all the mistakes that you don't have to, and happy to walk through, avoiding some mistakes. And oftentimes there's a lot of hidden money in your studio, whether it's adding HYROX or something else. So happy to walk through that with anybody who wants to jump on a call.
Great. Thank you guys again. Thanks to everyone for joining. You'll get an email with the recording with some of these other resources we mentioned, and hope to see you at another webinar or maybe a HYROX race soon.
Thanks, guys.